I woke up at 6:15 a.m. to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a notification from Brightwave Media's Project Tracker. Another campaign deadline moved up. I sighed, rubbed my eyes, and reached for the worn leather notebook on my bedside table. It was a habit. My mentor Clara gave it to me when I started at Brightwave 7 years ago. "Write down your ideas, Maya," she'd said. "They'll be your anchor." I flipped it open, jotted down a quick note about the deadline, and got out of bed. By 6:45, I was at my kitchen counter, coffee brewing, laptop open. I was a project manager at Brightwave, a mid-sized marketing firm that had been on the brink of collapse when I joined. Back then, we were losing clients left and right, $5 million in revenue gone in a single quarter. I'd turned it around. I redesigned our campaign workflows, pitched new strategies, and landed our biggest client, Zenith Fitness, a $10 million account. I didn't do it for glory. I did it because I loved the work. But no one ever threw me a parade. No one put my name on the company newsletter. I was fine with that. I thought my work spoke for itself. At 8:02 a.m., I walked into Brightwave's office, a modern space with glass walls and too bright lighting. My desk was in the open plan area, surrounded by a buzz of chatter and ringing phones. I set my notebook down, logged into my computer, and dove into the day. The Zenith campaign was launching next week, a fitness app rollout I'd spent 6 months planning. I'd stayed late every night, tweaking ad copy, coordinating with designers, and pitching influencers. It was going to be big. I could feel it. At 9:14, an email popped into my inbox. Subject role update. It was from HR. I clicked it, expecting a routine memo. My stomach dropped. "Maya Harper, as part of a team restructuring your role as project manager, will transition to junior associate effective immediately. Your new supervisor, Tara Reed, will follow up with details. We value your contributions to Brightwave." I stared at the screen, my chest tight. Junior associate. That was a demotion. A huge one. I'd gone from leading million-dollar campaigns to fetching coffee. No warning, no meeting. Just an email, cold and final, like I was an afterthought. I looked around the office. No one noticed. The team was too busy prepping for the Zenith launch party tomorrow. I felt invisible. I reached for my notebook, flipping it open to a blank page. My hands shook as I wrote, "Demoted." Why? The words stared back at me, raw and jagged. I closed the notebook, pressing it against my chest. I needed to move. I stood up, grabbed my water bottle, and headed to the break room. At 10:05, I heard laughter from the conference room. I glanced through the glass door. Ethan, the new director of operations, was there, surrounded by the team. He'd started 3 months ago, a 38-year-old with a fake smile and a habit of taking credit for everything. I'd never trusted him, but I'd kept my head down. Next to him was Tara, his protege, a 27-year-old who'd joined last year. She was laughing, holding a tablet with the Zenith campaign deck I'd built. My deck, my work. I froze. That's when it hit me. Tara was my replacement. They'd given her my job, my campaigns, my everything. I turned away, my throat burning, and went back to my desk. I opened the HR email again, rereading the line team restructuring. It was a lie. This wasn't about the team. This was about me. They wanted me out of the way. At 11:30, Ethan walked over to my desk, his hands in his pockets. He had that smug look I hated, like he'd already won. "Maya?" he said, his voice too casual. "You saw the email." "Yeah," I said, my voice flat. "What's going on?" He shrugged. "We're shaking things up. Tara's got a fresh perspective. You'll be great in the junior role. Support the team, you know." "Support the team," I echoed. "I've been leading campaigns for 7 years. I landed Zenith. I built this department." Ethan's smile didn't falter, but his eyes went cold. "We appreciate that. But we need new energy. You'll adjust." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him how I'd stayed up until 3 a.m., rewriting pitches, how I'd saved Brightwave from bankruptcy, how I'd trained half the team sitting in that conference room. But I didn't. I just sat there, my hands clenched around my notebook. Who approved this? I asked, my voice steady, despite the storm inside me. Leadership, he said, already turning away. It's done, Maya. Let's move forward. He walked off, leaving me staring at my screen. I opened my notebook again, writing Ethan. Tara. They took it all. My pen dug into the paper, the ink smudging. I felt like I was drowning. 7 years of work, and they'd erased me in a single email. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't stay here, not like this. I closed the notebook, its leather cover warm against my palms. It was the only thing keeping me grounded. It was 8:03 p.m. on Friday, May 23, 2025, and I was sitting on my couch, the worn leather notebook in my lap. The apartment was quiet, the only sound the faint hum of traffic outside my window. I hadn't eaten since lunch. I couldn't. My stomach was still knotted from the demotion email I'd gotten at Brightwave Media this morning. Junior associate. The words burned in my mind. I'd gone from leading million-dollar campaigns to a role I could have done straight out of college. I opened the notebook, flipping to the page where I'd scribbled Ethan. Tara. They took it all. My handwriting looked angry, the pen marks deep. I grabbed a pen and wrote, "What now?" I stood up, pacing my small living room. My socks slid on the hardwood floor. I felt trapped. 7 years at Brightwave, and they'd thrown me away like I was nothing. I thought about Clara, my mentor, the one who'd given me the notebook. She'd retired 3 years ago, but her voice still echoed in my head. You're stronger than they'll ever know, Maya. Don't let them dim your light. I wanted to believe her, but right now I felt dim, invisible. At 8:17, I grabbed my laptop from the coffee table and sat back down. I needed to do something, anything, to feel like I wasn't just sitting here drowning. I logged into my work email. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I had to start somewhere. I scrolled through my inbox, past the HR email, past the Zenith campaign updates. Then, I saw an email from 2 weeks ago, buried under a thread about the launch party. Subject: Zenith Fitness Q1 report. I'd written that report. I'd spent a weekend analyzing data showing how my strategy had boosted their app downloads by 42%. I opened the attachment. My name wasn't on it. Where it should have said prepared by Maya Harper, it now read, Brightwave Operations, led by Ethan Cole. I slammed the laptop shut, my hands trembling. He'd erased me. Not just from my job, but from my work, my ideas. I stood up again, pacing faster. I wanted to call Ethan. I wanted to march into his office and demand answers. But I knew that wouldn't help. He'd just smile, that smug smile, and tell me to move forward. I needed to be smarter than that. I needed proof, leverage, something. At 8:42, I opened my laptop again. This time, I logged into the company's shared drive. They hadn't cut my access yet, sloppy on their part. I started digging. Campaign files, budget reports, client contracts. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I kept going. My eyes burned from staring at the screen, but I couldn't stop. At 9:05, I found a folder labeled Client Contracts, Active. Inside was a file for Zenith Fitness, our biggest account, $10 million a year, 40% of Brightwave's revenue. I'd landed them myself 5 years ago, back when we were bleeding clients. I opened the contract. The terms were clear. Agreement valid for 60 months, renewable 90 days prior to expiration. Failure to renew results in termination of services. I checked the dates. Signed on July 1st, 2020. That meant it expired on July 1st, 2025, 5 weeks from now. The renewal window had opened on April 2nd. We were 52 days in, with only 38 days left to renew. I leaned back, my heart racing. I searched the folder for a renewal draft. Nothing. I checked the shared drive for Zenith renewal. Nothing. I scanned my email, Ethan's shared calendar, even the finance team's logs. Nothing. They'd missed it. Completely. If Zenith found out, they'd walk. Brightwave would lose $10 million overnight. And I was the only one who knew. I grabbed my notebook, flipping to a new page. I wrote Zenith contract. Expires July 1st. No renewal. My pen hovered over the page. I could fix this. I knew exactly how draft a renewal, pitch it to Zenith, smooth things over. I'd done it before. But why should I? They'd demoted me. They'd stolen my work. They didn't deserve my help. I closed the notebook, pressing it against my chest. My mind spun. This was bigger than my demotion. This was a lifeline. I just didn't know how to use it yet. At 9:33, my phone buzzed. A text from Jenna, a copywriter at Brightwave, who'd been my work friend for years. Heard about the demotion. I'm so sorry, Maya. Drinks tomorrow. I stared at the message, my throat tight. Someone had noticed. Someone cared. I texted back, yeah, 7 p.m. at Murphy's. I set the phone down, my hands still shaky. Jenna's text was a small lifeline, but it wasn't enough to pull me out of the storm. I opened my laptop again this time, searching for something different. How to start a marketing consultancy. I didn't know if I was serious, but I needed options. I couldn't stay at Brightwave, not like this. I scrolled through articles, jotting notes in my notebook. Business license, website, client outreach. It felt like a mountain, but it also felt possible. At 10:14, I found a blog post from a woman who'd left her agency job to go independent. She wrote, "The hardest part is believing you deserve better. You do." I stared at the screen, my eyes stinging. I wrote the quote in my notebook, underlining "you do." I closed my laptop and leaned back, the notebook still in my hands. I didn't have a plan yet, but I had something better, a spark. I wasn't going to let Brightwave break me. I was going to find a way out. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and poured a glass of water. My reflection stared back from the window above the sink. I looked tired, but there was something else in my eyes. Determination. I opened my notebook one more time, writing, "I'm done being invisible." The words felt heavy, but they also felt true. I didn't know what came next, but I knew I wasn't going to let Ethan and Tara write my story. I'd write my own. It was Saturday, May 24th, 2025, 8:47 a.m. I sat at my kitchen table, a cold coffee mug beside me, my worn leather notebook open. My eyes burned from lack of sleep. The Zenith Fitness contract expiring July 1st with no renewal had kept me up all night. I wrote Zenith Leverage. My way out. I knew it was my ticket, but I had to be smart. Starting a consultancy wasn't just a dream, it was a fight. And I was ready to fight. At 9:05, I opened my laptop to file for a business license. The state's website was a mess, broken links, error messages. I tried 3 times before the form finally submitted. $125. Maya Harper Consulting. I wrote in my notebook, license filed. Step 1. My hands shook as I closed the tab. This was real. Next, a website. I picked a free platform, chose a template, white, clean, navy header. I typed Maya Harper Consulting at the top, added a tagline, proven strategies, real results. But when I tried to publish, the site crashed. I spent an hour troubleshooting, my frustration boiling over. Finally, at 10:43, it went live. I added my experience, 7 years, at Brightwave, $10 million, and client wins, 42% campaign growth. I wrote in my notebook, website up. Barely. At 11:15, I emailed 5 small businesses, a yoga studio, a pet store chain, a meal prep company, a boutique clothing shop, a tech app for freelancers. I'm Maya Harper, a marketing expert with 7 years of experience driving growth. I can help your business thrive. Let's talk. I attached my website link and hit send. By 1:22 p.m., 3 had replied, all rejections. Not interested, budget's tight, we're good. I wrote in my notebook, rejections. Keep going. My chest ached, but I wouldn't stop. At 2:07, I emailed Lisa at Zenith Fitness. Lisa, it's Maya Harper. I've managed your account at Brightwave for 5 years and recently started my own consultancy. I understand there may be an issue with your contract renewal. I can help directly. Can we meet Monday? I waited. No reply. I wrote Zenith pitch sent. Waiting. Doubt crept in. What if she ignored me? What if Brightwave found out? At 6:45 p.m., I met Jenna at Murphy's, a dive bar across town. She was in a booth sipping a beer, her eyes tired. I slid in my notebook on the table. "Maya," she said, her voice soft. "You holding up?" "Barely," I said, flipping open my notebook. "They're erasing me, Jenna. Ethan's taking credit for Zenith. Tara's a mess." Jenna nodded, her jaw tight. "I heard. She lost a $50,000 account yesterday, and Ethan's planning cuts junior roles first. You're on the list." My stomach dropped. "Cuts?" "Yeah," she said. "You need to move fast." I wrote, "Cuts coming. Hurry." Then I showed Jenna my notebook, my plans, my pitches. "I'm starting my own consultancy," I said. "I'm pitching Zenith directly. Their contract's expiring. Brightwave missed it." Jenna's eyes lit up. "That's genius. You deserve this, Maya." She paused, then added, "If you need a copywriter, I'm in." I stared at her. "You'd join me." "Absolutely," she said. "I'm done with Brightwave too." I wrote Jenna's in. A small smile broke through my exhaustion. I had an ally. At 9:14, I got home, my notebook under my arm. I checked my email. Still nothing from Lisa. I wrote Zenith silent. "Don't panic. I prepped for Monday at Brightwave, my first day as a junior associate. I hated it, but I needed the paycheck." I flipped to Clara's note in my notebook. "Your ideas are your power, Maya." I traced the words. I wasn't giving up. It was Monday, May 26th, 2025, 8:03 a.m. I sat at my kitchen table, my worn leather notebook open, a cold coffee beside me. I'd heard nothing from Lisa at Zenith Fitness since my email on Saturday. My stomach churned. I wrote Zenith silent. Last chance. I had to go to Brightwave for my first day as a junior associate, but my mind was on Zenith. I needed them to respond. At 8:45, I walked into Brightwave's office. The air was tense, phones ringing, voices sharp. My new desk by the copier felt like a prison. Tara, my supervisor, handed me a stack of papers. "File these," she said, barely looking at me. "And take notes on my 10 a.m. call." I nodded, my jaw tight. I wrote in my notebook, "Tara's clueless. Focus on Zenith." At 9:37, I heard shouting from the conference room. Ethan was pacing, yelling into his phone. Tara stood nearby, pale, clutching my Zenith campaign deck. "We can't lose Zenith," Ethan barked. "Fix this," Tara stammered. "They emailed this morning. They're pulling out, contract renewal missed. We have until Friday," I wrote. "They know. Too late." My heart raced. I could fix this, but I wouldn't. Not for them. At 11:02, my phone buzzed. "Lisa from Zenith. Maya, we're at the marketing summit today. Brightwave's mess has us fed up. Can you meet at 2 p.m. at the convention center?" I froze. The marketing summit, an industry event Brightwave was attending. Ethan and Tara would be there. I replied, "Yes, I'll be there." I wrote Zenith meeting, 2 p.m. summit. This was it. I told Tara I was taking a long lunch. She waved me off, too panicked to care. I drove to the convention center, my notebook on the passenger seat. The summit was packed, booths, banners, hundreds of people. I spotted Brightwave's booth. Ethan and Tara were there, schmoozing with clients. I kept my distance, heading to Zenith's booth. At 2:04, I met Lisa in a quiet corner. She looked stressed. "Maya," she said, "Brightwave's a disaster. What have you got?" I opened my notebook, showing her the renewal draft. "I can fix the contract," I said. "Same terms, better rates. And I'll manage your campaigns directly through Maya Harper Consulting. No Brightwave, just me." Lisa nodded, scanning the draft. "We trust you," she said. "Let's sign." By 2:32, Zenith was mine, a $200,000 contract for 6 months. I wrote Zenith signed. At 3, Zenith's CEO took the stage for their keynote. I stood in the crowd, my notebook in hand. "We're thrilled to announce our new partnership with Maya Harper Consulting," he said, gesturing to me. "Maya's the mind behind our success, and we're proud to work with her directly." The crowd clapped. I glanced across the room. Ethan and Tara stood frozen at Brightwave's booth, their faces pale. Ethan's jaw dropped. Tara clutched her tablet, her eyes wide. They knew. Everyone knew. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. I wrote, "They see me now." It was Tuesday, May 27, 2025, 9:15 a.m. I stood outside Brightwave Media's office, my resignation letter in my bag. Yesterday's summit moment, Zenith announcing our partnership in front of the entire industry, had been electric. Ethan and Tara's stunned faces were etched in my mind. I didn't need their validation, but seeing them realize what they'd lost felt like justice. I opened my worn leather notebook, writing "resigning today." They can't erase me anymore. I walked in, dropped the letter on Tara's desk, and said, "I'm done." She stared at me, speechless. "You... what?" she stammered. "Zenith?" I said, my voice steady. "I didn't steal your client. I took back what I built." I turned and left the glass doors closing behind me. I stopped in the parking lot, pulling out my notebook. I wrote a letter to myself, "Dear Maya, the version who cried over that HR email, you're stronger than you knew. You're free now." My eyes stung, but I felt lighter than ever. At 10:47, I sat in a coffee shop, my notebook open. I emailed Clara, my mentor, attaching a digital copy of my notebook's pages. "Clara, I wrote your gift carried me through. I've turned my ideas into my legacy." "Thank you." I used one of her quotes from the notebook as my website's new tagline, "Your ideas are your power." I wrote "Notebook lives on." By September 2025, Maya Harper Consulting had 6 clients. Zenith Fitness and the yoga studio were steady. And I'd signed 4 more after the summit buzz. Jenna joined me as my first employee, our first copywriter. "I knew you'd make it," she said on her first day, her smile wide. I wrote Jenna as my partner now. I was bringing in $400,000 a year, working from a small office with a park view. On my desk sat a framed photo of Clara, the digital notebook file open on my laptop. Brightwave was crumbling. They'd lost 4 clients after Zenith, and Ethan was under investigation for mismanagement. I didn't care. My victory wasn't their failure. It was my growth. On October 10th, 2025, I spoke at a small business conference. I stood on stage, my notebook in hand, facing a room of entrepreneurs. "You're not invisible," I said, my voice clear. "You're just in the wrong room. Find yours." The crowd clapped, and I felt a quiet peace. I wrote, "I found my room.